welcome to Naptime Liturgy. In this series, Short and Sacred, we're walking through all 150 Psalms one by one. The intent is not a deep dive or a study, but just a pure reading of the poetry and a few of my honest reflections. My hope is for a space for us to find a little rest in the middle of our days. Today we are resting with Psalm 2. So let's read. Why do the nations rage and the peoples plot in vain? The kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against his anointed, saying, "Let us burst their bonds apart and cast away their cords from us." He who sits in the heavens laughs. The Lord holds them in derision. Then he will speak to them in his wrath and terrify them in his fury, saying, "As for me, I have set my king on Zion, my holy hill. I will tell of the decree. The Lord said to me, 'You are my son. Today I have begotten you. Ask of me, and I will make the nations your heritage, and the ends of the earth your possession. You shall break them with a rod of iron, and dash them in pieces like a potter's vessel.' Now therefore, O kings, be wise. Be warned, O rulers of the earth. Serve the Lord with fear and rejoice with trembling. Kiss the Son, lest he be angry and you perish in the way. For his wrath is quickly kindled. Blessed are all who take refuge in him." This is the word of the Lord. Some of my initial thoughts as I go into this, just a generic category for the psalm. I think there's different terms that people use. I was taught kind of like the kingship, or like a royal psalm is what this would fall under. So it's, in one way, it's talking about the kingship of David. And then we're supposed to also look beyond that initial kingship and rule of David to also look at the eternal kingship of Jesus. So as I'm reading that, it's hard not to see Jesus even in this Old Testament psalm. But some of the things that are sticking out to me near the beginning of nations raging and peoples plotting in vain, this idea of God's plan for the world will be fulfilled. No matter how we plot or plan, or set ourselves up with these intentions, God's will is going to be done. And he has kind of claimed victory for his people and for us over death. We see that with Jesus's accomplishments on the cross of casting off our cords and our bonds. He who sits in the heavens laugh. That's kind of a beautiful imagery to me of just how in control God is of the situation, that he can look on it and see the bigger picture. And he will speak to them in his wrath and terrify them in his fury. As for me, I have set my king. So God has already set who will be in charge. And so all of these plottings and plannings are irrelevant because he has already set his king. And I think the part that is standing out to me the most is looking at verse 8. "Ask of me, and I will make the nations your heritage and the ends of your earth your possession." For me, this is recalling back to God's covenant with Abraham, even of blessing all the nations through his lineage. And we know how that is accomplished now, but just even in this context, how the ends of the earth will be under the kingship of Jesus and is under the kingship of Jesus. And that's just very apparent to me here. And even then a little bit later, of course, in the context of this writing, it was supposed to be about David, of kissing the Son, lest he be angry. But then the Son is such a word that we use now to refer to Jesus Christ. And so it's like turning to Jesus. And that's how you serve the Lord with fear and rejoice with trembling, because we have Jesus as like this intermediary, this king that is watching over us and is bridging the gap between us and God the Father. Blessed are all who take refuge in him. His kingship pales in comparison to the kingship of Jesus and the refuge that we can have in him. As we read Psalm 2 today, was there one specific phrase or word or verse that felt like it was written just for you in this moment? For me, it's this reminder that God is in control. I'm not necessarily making plots against God, but I am making plans in my own life. I'm releasing these plans to God to follow his calling and his will for my life. And so that's speaking to me today. But if there's a verse that stuck out to you, please feel free to share it in the comments below, and we can talk about it and meditate on it together. Thanks for joining me for this short and sacred reading, and I will meet you back here for the next psalm. Grace and peace.